Bob, hey,
Yo, what's up, TP?
let's go, baby. I'm excited.
Same, dude. How you doing?
Good, my man. Good. A couple weeks out of the game. I thought I'd be dealing with it a little worse than I am, but honestly, man, I'm happy. I'm taking some time off, talking to the family, just getting to be out here for a little bit. But yeah, before we get going, I took the job at Dave. Actually, put in a good word for me. I took the job at Driveline. So
Hmm.
yeah, man, I'm gonna
Congrats,
be.
dude. That's
Thank,
awesome.
thank you. So staying in the game, I'm gonna go home to Seattle this summer. I'll be working full time at Driveline as one of the hitting instructors.
Dude, that's so sick.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm pumped.
Yeah. Little Dave Malpass,
Yeah, the Connect, that
the
helped. He pulled
Connect
some
helped a
strings right
ton.
there. Yeah, yeah, but gotta use them, right?
Amen. Yeah.
Alright.
Can you hear me all right and everything?
Yeah, everything's good. I'm good on that end too.
No, you're terrible.
Love to hear it. Alright, you ready to do this?
Let's go.
Alright, my man, I'm excited. Okay. Alright, I'm your host, Tyler Priest. This is Before the Breakthrough, and today I'm joined by my former coach, Bobby O'Neill. Super excited to have him on. He's a former professional baseball player, like I said, former coach, currently in the social media space as well as a content creator, and has absolutely killed it. This guy has seen the game from so many different angles, and Bobby, thanks for coming on today, man. I'm excited.
Of course, dude. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be on here.
Appreciate it. So let's kind of jump into it. I kind of want to start from the beginning because, I mean, through getting to know you on a personal level this year, your story is super interesting to me. Growing up, let's just kind of jump into this. Did you always believe Pro Bowl was realistic for you? I'm curious.
Yeah. So I had a older brother who I was kind of not living in his shadow, but kind of chasing the same mission as him. And my family, I'm one of 9 kids. So we were all super athletic and competitive, and we're always trying to one up one another. So my older brother was a college athlete when I was in high school, and then my older sister was like trying to be an Olympic gymnast at the same time. And so we're always pushing each other athletically, and then academically, we were also just killing it on that end as well. So it was just a constant pursuit of trying to be excellent in everything that we did. And so, yeah, around like 10 years old, my dad asked me what I wanted to do the rest of my life. And I was like, well, my older brother wants to play pro ball. So that's kind of what I want to do too. And he started going down the list of all the different things I wasn't allowed to do, like skiing, skateboarding.
Yep.
I mean, he basically restricted me to underwater basket weaving and baseball.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, always wanted to play pro ball. I basically came out with a glove and been playing ball ever since.
That's sweet. And so we can get into your journey a little bit here. I mean, born and raised Southern California, right? And then went to Biola. But I want to get into the story about how that first scout came and saw you that you told me this year. When you were at Biola, you ended up, what was CG or pretty close? You got, he was there for somebody else and then it ended up coming on to you. Like, what happened there? I'm curious.
Yeah. So kind of the background of that was I kind of was flying under the radar for all 4 years of my college experience. I was battling injuries and just setback after setback. Never really had a complete season where I was either healthy or pitching well or performing well. So didn't really have any scout exposure, especially at the NAIA level at the time. If you didn't know, Biola was NAIA back when I played. So the main thing for me was I had no idea that there were going to be scouts at my game, and I was just super frustrated with the performance I had been doing all year. And it was kind of like the one thing I was withholding from God. I was like trying to surrender my whole life to Him, but baseball was like my thing. So that was something I had been battling with all 4 years of my college experience because my 10-year-old self wanted to play pro ball more than anything else in the world. I never saw myself ever wearing a suit or anything like that. I was just like, no, I'm not having a 9 to 5 job. I'm going to play pro ball. And so that was just like something I kept to myself and didn't really relinquish to the Lord and let Him show me His plans. That was like my plan. So fast forward to my senior year, I was throwing like 83, 84 miles an hour, just wild. I think I led our team in walks and hip hop pitches, and it was just a terrible experience. But yeah, I eventually got to a point where I just kind of surrendered that to the Lord and was like, hey, if it's your will, let it be done. But I'm just going to enjoy the last couple months I have left of baseball, and we'll see what happens. And of course, once you
Turned
surrender
out.
to the Lord, he lets you have more peace in what you're doing. And I gained like, I think 6 miles an hour, 8 miles an hour or something, and started throwing gas. But
That's crazy.
yeah, the game you're referencing was at the Masters College, actually. So I was pitching for Biola. We were at the Masters College. It was terrible windy day. Like wind was blowing on my back, but the ball was like super slippery. And somehow I just battled the elements and was throwing, I think 92, 93 miles an hour going into the eighth inning. And yeah, I saw this scout roll up for our closer who happened to be throwing 97 at the time. And that was kind of how the whole season was. It's like all the scouts would show up in the seventh or eighth inning and go watch him pitch. And as soon as he was done, they'd all bounce. So
Yeah.
yeah, I just happened to go deep into a game. And I think the scout, he could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he thought I came out of the pen because I was throwing hard in the later innings, and I think it was a 2-hit ball game shutout. And yeah, I ended up throwing my like 120th pitch at I think 93 or 92.5 or something like that. And can't remember if closed the game or if our closer came in and got the last out or whatever. But after the game, he came up to me and he's like, "Yeah, so who started this game? That was a great game." I was like, "I started." He's like, "No way." And so
What
he,
story.
yeah, he just came out of no, or I came out of nowhere with like 2 months left on the season or a month and a half left on the season, and that sparked his interest. And then he came out and saw me again. I performed well again, and that earned me a pre-draft workout for the Twins.
That is awesome. That is
Yeah.
awesome. We'll get into that here in a second, and I'm excited. But I think there's something to be said about that story, and I have done some reflecting on that since you told me that early in the season. And baseball is such a unique game, man, where like anything can happen at any time. You know, like I feel like I've heard so many stories similar to that, which is crazy considering how unique it is, as I said. But it really is a game of time and place, and you never know what's going to happen, man. No matter where you're at, playing NAI ball, D2, D3, Division One, like you see all these cool stories, and I think that's just something that more people need to hear because they get so wrapped up sometimes that, oh, I got to go play at this level and put myself in front of these people, you know. And it's just like, no, go out there, have fun, and do your thing. But I do want to go into something that you said throughout that story. You gave yourself to the Lord. I'm working on my relationship with the Lord right now, growing it, and I'm excited for that. But in turn, there was also something that it was for me this season why I think I had the season that I had, similar to you, it was I'm going to free up. I'm going to not let my identity get wrapped up in the game. I'm just going to go out there and have fun. So I want to go into that for a second because it sounded like that's really what kind of did it for you was giving yourself to the Lord. And that is amazing. Like I said, I'm trying to grow my relationship right now, but I want to touch on that for a second on how that helped you kind of pull your identity outside of the game. Because I've been wrapped up. We all have. It's a tough game. What did that do for you and how important really is that?
Yeah, so for me, I mean, from my own personal experience, I've definitely had moments where I allow my identity to get wrapped up in my performance, and part of that's from having a strict dad who is constantly comparing myself and my performance to my older siblings who maybe wanted it a little bit more than me. Like I was kind of that kid that was would rather go play outside with my buddies than actually go like get better on the baseball field. I was constantly just like more interested in other things than baseball and wanting to keep the game fun and wanting to just go have fun and be a kid. But that performance identity is great when you're performing well, but the second you don't perform well, it cripples you. And it's kind of a compounding issue where one bad outing will lead to another bad outing, which leads to another bad outing because we're going through that cycle of like having a plan and the plan not being executed and that are being executed, and then our response to that plan just gets filtered into the next plan, and then it just spirals. So for me, my identity being wrapped up in my performance is really something I've always struggled with, especially on social media. When you're starting out on social media, 100 views is a good thing, but you look at the people around you and you start comparing yourselves to the people who are elite in your field, and you start saying like, "Oh man, I'm not doing as good as them. I suck as a person. I suck as a creator. No one wants me, and no one wants to know what I have to say." And and yeah, you start freaking out about that. But what I've learned over the years is it's all about progress, not perfection, and it's not about the losses. It's about how you improve and learning how to pivot when necessary and learning how to make small adjustments when necessary, especially on the baseball field side. Like one bad outing doesn't define you as a person. You got to be able to push out of that mentality, and it really comes down to how you're raised and the people you surround yourself with. if you have a good background and you have good mentors in your corner, you can kind of pull yourself out of that spiral in a sense.
Bobby, you go over so much stuff that I've been talking about already with other friends on the pod and whatnot, which I love. But something you said right there too about the progress. To me, I interpret that as process oriented over results. When I was
Mm,
able to switch my mindset to that in the back half of my career, that it was night and day the difference that it made. And so I just love hearing you say that. I think that's so important today. And even like you said, social media. I mean, I've been doing this for a week and a half and it's just a podcast, but I'm posting clips. And yeah, man, like I've definitely seen myself already have some good clips that have done well. And then, I go compare myself and whether it's chasing validation for more views or wanting people to see it, I don't know what, but I'm trying to understand that, or at least I have to take a step back. I've had to this week and realize I know why I'm doing this. I'm doing it because I love it. I'm chasing the process. I'm having a blast interviewing great people, having good conversations, going through their stories. Like this is why I'm doing it. So I don't know. It all seemed to tie together, but I love what you're saying there. It was really good.
amen, man. Yeah, and on the podcast side of things, man, I've been a part of a couple podcasts, and there's so many peaks and valleys. And if you're chasing performance instead of a process, it's really crippling. It's really easy to get burnout. So stay on process, and just remember, even I don't know. I get in this cycle sometimes where it's like, man, I only got 20,000 views. That sucks. That's terrible. But then, but then you think of it in sense of like how many people fit in Dodger Stadium, and you look at that number and you're like, okay, maybe double that. And then you start thinking of every single view, especially when those 20,000 views turn into 20,000 likes. That's 20,000 fans that are literally there to watch you, even if it's just for a 30-second clip. They're investing 30 seconds into your life, and that's where you kind of have to shift your mindset to go from they're not my fans. I'm their fans. I need to engage with them and I'm providing for them. So I need to treat it like they're my family, not I'm their family. And so yeah, I think selfless content creation always wins out. And that's kind of what I need to get back to because I've been on like a 3-month hiatus. But I love that side of things, man. Content creation and inspiring others is kind of what gets me up in the morning.
Yeah, no, I believe it. I'm loving it so far. And honestly, the biggest thing through this is just how curious I am to actually hear about my friends' stories and these people's stories that I'm interviewing. It's not I'm not doing it because I want the clicks by any means. I've already had those thoughts of why am I doing this? And yeah, I think it just goes back to I'm genuinely curious to hear more about your story, why you're as successful as you are, how you built that, how you went about your life, like that. I don't know. It's just I'm taking stuff from it every time, and then I just happen to be posting it. So
It's
I'm
good,
having a lot.
man.
Yeah. All right. So let's jump back into the pro ball side of things. I want to talk to you about what the reality is of pro ball because at times, knowing I have quite a few friends playing pro ball as, you do, and a lot of people higher up in the game. But to me, it seems like pro baseball gets romanticized at times and people all want to be there. But do you understand the work it takes? And then when you get there, do you understand the grind that it really is?
Mm.
So let's go into that a little bit. You were able to play it at the highest level. I would love to pick your brain on that.
Yeah, so I guess my first misconception in pro ball is just because you've been drafted and you're in the minor league system doesn't mean you're not a professional athlete. Like so many people get that wrong. They're like, "Oh, you played pro? That's really cool. Did you ever play at Dodger Stadium?" And I tell them no, and they're like, "Well, why not? Didn't you play in that same league?" I'm like, "Yeah, I was in the minors. I wasn't in the
Yes.
majors. I was in the minors." And they're like, "Oh, so you didn't make it to pro?" It's like, dude, I was literally getting paid every 2 weeks. I had a
Yep.
paycheck with MLB
Yep.
commissioner's stamp on it. Yes, I was a professional athlete. I just wasn't making $750,000 a year. It was more like $750. No, just
Yeah, my
but
low.
yeah. So I think the misconception between minor league ball and pro ball is definitely on like out there, at least in my experience. But yeah, to your point on the grind, like everyone romanticizes the big league minimum, and they don't realize that there's hundreds of people ahead of you who are all pursuing the same dream all at the same time, and they're all pushing for that one spot that opens up at the MLB level, and everyone beneath the MLB is grinding, like absolutely grinding. There was one point where I was traded to 3 different cities within a month, and I had a hotel bill in one that was taking up the majority of my paycheck because there was no host families left in the city. And then I also had an apartment back home that I was paying for, which covered the rest of my bill. And I was literally having to I was having to like repair gloves just to eat dinner at night. And then I was
That's
on the
crazy.
side, like having to go into the clubhouse after the game and like get to know the concessions people. And they would like flip me a hot dog or a hamburger every now and then. And I was going in to the clubhouse guy and like getting extra peanut butter sandwiches just to eat dinner just so I could perform the next day. So yeah, it's definitely it's not homelessness, but it's definitely close.
Crazy to hear those stories when it's like you said, like, I wish people understood that minor league baseball, like you're a professional baseball player, but crazy to hear those stories at the same time. Like it's just you look at other sports and they don't have that same, farm system. They don't have the same come up. Most of the time you're drafted and whether it's the G League or, you're in the NFL, you're just kind of playing right away. But none of it really compares to the minor leagues. To hear you say that you were pretty much living out of your suitcase while paying off multiple bills and then doing that, like that's crazy to me. Being a professional baseball player, like that's nuts.
It's definitely different now. I mean, when I got drafted, there was 43 rounds and
Yeah, cut it down.
multiple levels, and ever since COVID, where they started cutting off rounds and getting rid of some other facilities, I'm sure that the living situation and the provisions are a lot better. I know they've had some legal stuff that has improved base pay and how they take care of athletes and everything. But yeah, I mean, it was a different era back then. You kind of, my conversation with my scout was, dude, like, I don't need a signing bonus. Literally, just give me a hot dog and a bike, and I'll bike my ass to spring training.
That's
So,
awesome.
like,
That's
my
awesome.
era, like, we were just grinders and we were willing to do whatever it took to pursue that 10-year-old dream.
Yep, yep, that's sweet, and honestly, going on that, I wanna talk about failure at that level and how you kinda dealt with it, because obviously you're gonna see it. It's a part of the game. We talked about it when you were at Biola, you giving yourself to the Lord, working with that, how that helped you. How are you able to deal with that? Because I'm curious from your perspective, being around the game, like I said, playing it at the highest level, how are you able to bounce back? Because I think too much today, whether it's going back into identity or whatever it is, people just that failure carries over. And
Mm.
as we know, that's never going to do any good for you. So how did you deal with it? Maybe is there a story of failure that you really experienced, that you can think of or that stuck?
Yeah, dude, I wish I could say I did it the right way because that would be a pretty cool story. But in my experience, where sin abounds, grace abounds all the more. So I kind of fall into that category a little bit. I told you just a little bit ago that after I surrendered baseball over to the Lord, I started to experience all this success. But that was a fleeting moment that was kind of retracted from my mentality after I got released for the final time. So I got released by the Twins after my first year of pro ball, and then I re-signed with the Marlins in the off season to go to spring training. Killed it out there, but then got released 2 weeks before they broke camp, and then had to go to independent ball and
Mhm,
try out there. And it was seen by the Diamondbacks, but didn't sign with them. And they kind of put my name on their radar. And then I had to report to spring training with the independent ball team, and then signed with the Diamondbacks right after that. But during that time, I tore my rotator cuff. So as soon as I got to the Diamondbacks, I already had a torn rotator cuff. They had like these big plans to have me move up the ranks quickly, and yeah, I was already done at that point. So I pitched my entire time with the Diamondbacks with a torn rotator cuff, and I was getting super bitter with the Lord. Like, man, I'm given all these opportunities, and you're taking it from me before I ever get a chance. And I was just wrestling with the Lord. And after I got released by the Diamondbacks, I kind of took a turn for the South and kind of stopped prioritizing the Lord, stopped going to church, stopped praying. I just got really bitter, and there was definitely some family dynamics there. My parents were going through a divorce at the time, and it was just compounding like one after another and after another. And yeah, that really led me to pursue an alternate lifestyle, and I was very unhappy, and it was a dark place. But yeah, I think that's how I handled my adversity. Was I kind of went back to my roots and started seeing me getting released by another pro team as a failure, and in turn made me feel like I was a failure. And yeah, I didn't handle that too well. I was super immature, but One thing I learned from that is after God kind of allowed me to experience all that adversity and all that failure, He also exposed me to the the true meaning of grace, and how even in all those dark times where I was making a ton of bad decisions, and I won't bore you with the bad decisions I was making, but there was definitely a lot of grace needed. And the thing he realized, or the thing he revealed to me, was the grace that he was offering me in that moment was something that he knew he was going to have to even before I ever existed. And that was kind of the key aha moment for me that I needed to experience through my failure in order to fully understand like what a relationship with the Lord actually entails, and fully understand like what he actually sacrificed for. So yeah, I'd say, like, to my point about where grace abound, or where sin abounds, grace abounds all the more. I've have a much better understanding of that because I messed up. So yeah, I wouldn't go back on it any other way. But yeah, I've learned how to handle failure and how to not allow, I guess, negative things that happen in my life to become my identity because of those experiences.
Yeah, which is awesome. And I got to play with both of your younger brothers, the twins, this year, Danny and Davo, two of my great friends. Was there any advice that you were able to ever give to them, them being in college ball, whether it was self-doubt, just anything, little intricate parts of the game, that you were able to go back and say, look, if I could do it again, this is what I would do, or here's a mindset that you have to have in order to play the game, just I feel like having an older brother that was playing pro ball at one point, and had been through that stuff, would have been a huge help. So, was
Mm.
there ever anything like you would get into with them about that stuff?
Yeah, so Danny and David were kind of different in a sense. Danny being a catcher, David being a pitcher. So I was sharing a little bit more insights with David in terms of like performance based stuff, because as you know, like David definitely got more opportunities to compete. So the advice I was giving both of them were kind of unique to their own current state. But yeah, I definitely had multiple moments where I would essentially get David to not fixate on one bad outing, one bad pitch, but get him to the next pitch and kind of kick his butt back into gear whenever he would start wandering or faltering. And I think the main thing for David was just reminding him that baseball is a game that is performed one pitch at a time,
Mhm.
and there's not, when you make the moment too big, it never allows you to actually live in the moment. So yeah, for David, it was his big thing was fastballs for strikes. Like he struggled with that early on in the season. And we would have conversations where he was like, yeah, like every time I get up on the mound, it's like I'm throwing ball one, and I just like try to be too fine with it. And so this was early on in the season, and we kind of just sat down and talked through that, and just got him to realize like your 0-0 pitch and your 0-2 pitch are different in the sense that one needs to be for chase, one needs to be for strike execution, but they're both the same concept. Like you're literally just executing a plan. And the more you can get to executing one specific plan in your brain, instead of worrying about past failures and focusing on present moments, the better off you're going to be. So, yeah, for David, it was more about just like his on field makeup and keeping him present in the moment. And then for Danny, it was more just like learning how to handle factors that are outside of his control. So, like, he was, I think, the third string catcher, and I think he had 14 innings in 4 years performed. So, yeah, he had to kind of sit through a lot of that adversity of like earning the ability to play games, but just having guys ahead of you that got the nod. And so my biggest encouragement to him was like, don't allow your character to falter while battling through those adversities. Like, don't play coach. You just keep earning every opportunity that you get. And if that opportunity never comes, like don't walk away with someone else causing you to lose your character. And so that was kind of, I guess, without like getting into super detail with Danny, that was kind of the summary of what I taught him.
Makes sense. That's awesome. Like I said, just having a mentor like you, a bigger brother like you, I think would have been such a help. And another reason why I wanted to kind of do this podcast, and so yeah, super cool. But moving on from that, I want to kind of start to go into the social media side, the content creation. Bobby, you have such a good personality for content creation. I wish more people knew you behind the camera. And just watching your work now this year, getting to see all your videos. It's so cool how much you care about it, how much you put into it. So let's get into that journey. I know it kind of started in COVID, but it's a cool story. I've heard it as well, but I want the people to hear it. And yeah, let's jump into that.
Yeah. So, kind of along the lines of the identity stuff before, caring a lot about what other people think is a crippling mindset when you're trying to create content, because every other word, I don't know if you've caught on to it, but I say and like and do these stutters all the time every time I talk, and those are miserable to edit out, and they're atrocious. And every time you're editing your own video and you have to hear like or all those other things that I fixate on now, it's kind of a demoralizing and crippling experience, because you just start worrying that other people are going to think you're weird, and you start thinking that other people are going to belittle what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And so from a mental side, it was very difficult for me to get in front of a camera, and I think that's why I waited so long to actually start pursuing the social media route, was because I had a lot of people in my corner who were making fun of me for that kind of stuff. And I kind of let that get to me a little bit. And I kind of went into my shell and didn't even think I was good enough to get on camera to begin with. And yeah, but once
So
COVID,
natural.
yeah, supernatural. And it's kind of something, if the dream or the vision outweighs your own pride, I think it's worth pushing through, because it is a grind. And like, videos don't always just blow up. People don't just have instant fame. There are the outliers that do, but for the most part, like, you got to grind. You got to film at least 100 videos and post them before you ever start seeing any type of progress. But yeah, for me, mine was kind of it was bred out of a desire to help others, and kind of knowing and forecasting a little bit of what COVID was going to do to baseball. I knew that there was most likely going to be a shutdown. I had a couple of pro scouts tell me that baseball was probably going to be canceled for the year. They told me that ahead of time, and they're like, "You probably should get your ducks in order," essentially. And so I took that as, oh no, a lot of these kids, like, dreams and passions are going to get taken from them. They're going to get super depressed. So I want to make some funny content to kind of keep them in the baseball community and avoid some of that toxicity. So my original content was all skit oriented, and doing like funny, like, comparisons, like making fun of second basemen for their height, and talking about left-handed pitchers being weird, and first basemen being tall and lanky, and outfielders being like the outcast of baseball, and they're just always just sitting off in the corner and no one ever wants to talk to them. So I would just do funny skits like that just to make people laugh. And then it kind of transitioned to me sharing some of my baseball stories from pro ball in skit form, and just like always having like a funny, like, ending to those skits. And none of them were me talking. It was always just me, like, acting it out and then using like on-screen text, because I was still like insecure about using my voice. And then after a while, I started realizing people were like actually engaging with it and asking me questions about pro ball. And then it got to a point where I couldn't just perform a skit to share my story and to help that one individual athlete who was asking a question. And so I had to turn on my camera and had to use my voice, and it took like 10 or 15 different takes to get out what I wanted to say. And those were when the followers started coming in. The second I like, because I was getting a lot of engagement but not a lot of following. The second I started posting like what I actually know, and I had already established that I already care, people started flooding in. So for me, I had to push past my own comfort and my own insecurities to truly reach the masses. I think my first talking video got like 600,000 views and like 90,000 likes or something like that. Yeah, it was insane. And I mean, all glory to God, because I was a train wreck and I hated every second of that. But once that hit, I started, like I said before, became fans of all my followers and just try to do everything I could to figure out what they needed from me. And then I would just provide them with information that they weren't getting anywhere else. And I ended up building out a whole bunch of like throwing plans for guys who were coming back from COVID. So no one just like went straight back from taking a break off to, or taking a break off from throwing to going straight back into games. So I think what I did during COVID definitely helped a ton of athletes not get injured during that time of coming back. And I've been given like hundreds and hundreds of DMs and feedback from guys saying that without some of the information I would have given them, they probably would have quit baseball. So yeah,
Wow, that's so cool.
yeah, that was all bred on a mission that was bigger than myself, and I think that's what social media is. You have a goal and a vision in mind that's bigger than yourself, and you're willing to do whatever it takes to see that vision play out.
And honestly, hearing you say that's pretty inspiring to me just because I haven't told anyone this, but I've had this idea of doing this podcast for a long time because I wanted to give that information back, share my experiences, share the failures, the pressure, the expectations. But for so long, I was scared to get in front of a camera or put myself out there. What are people going to think of me? Or how is this going to look? Or maybe how is my family going to think of it? But you want to be normal, you're going to get normal results. You want to be weird, you're going to get weird results. And I want to be weird and get weird results. It's one of those things where when I started to actually break down what the fear was in the last couple weeks, it wasn't as big as I ever saw it to be. And like we have one chance at this life. It just feels like when I put it in perspective, no one really cares at the end of the day. Like, and nor do I. But I feel like we're all kind of a blip on the planet.
Mm,
And to say I'm going to live my life based on what other people think of me is crazy when I actually put it in perspective. Like I could care less. I know who I am. I know what I value. And I want to do this because I want to help people. So what are a couple of negative opinions really going to do to me mentally? Like I can handle that. We played baseball. So
exactly, dude.
it's crazy.
Two
But
things for you really quick. So the first thing, when people are making fun of you, you're doing the right thing because people only make fun of others out of insecurities for what they're lacking and what they're not doing. So if you're doing something that is better than them, they're going to roast you for it because they want to feel better about their own life. And second thing, when you're authentically you, it shows. And if authentically you is weird, it's going to attract a lot of people just like you who resonate with you. So don't try to be anyone else. Try to be yourself and put your use your insecurities to grow. Like me and my speech impediments. Like I've had a ton of people who, or yeah, I've had a ton of people who just tell me like, "Oh man, this guy's relatable. Like he sounds just like me when I talk." And there's hundreds, literally, like I think my social media following is like 225,000 followers or whatever. 225,000 people who find my weird cool. And so that's the cool part about being authentic is you're going to attract the right people. A lot of people try to pursue the important people first. You got to get away from that because the important people only come when you can show that you can attract the masses. Go after the people that you would want to hang out with and have a conversation with. People that are like you and me. We're just regular boys who played some ball and now we want to talk to other people about it.
yep, that's awesome. That's great advice. And kind of staying on the social media stuff too. With you being a coach, I've been wondering this. With you being a coach as well as content creation or doing content creation, how important today is social media, especially in terms of athletes? Because
Mm.
I see the NIL side of things, I see what it's doing, but also social media can be a burden as an athlete, that puts more pressure on, creates more expectations. You can just get caught up in it, chasing the wrong things. So how important is it? But then how would you kind of go about it if you could go back and do it again today? I've been thinking about that.
Yeah, so I see a lot of D1 creators starting to come out with their like, here's what my post throwing routine is on a pen day. Here's what my in-game routine is when I'm hot that day. I see a lot of those videos coming out and a lot of those creators are understanding kind of what I learned later on in my social media career and that's social media becomes a funnel to whatever revenue streams that you have. So if they're selling programs or if they're fulfilling their deliverables for their NIL stuff and all of that. So it's definitely a job, but I feel like baseball has become a job at the collegiate level to an extent where you're given $100,000 NIL and there's expectations within that and it's not just about how you perform on the baseball field. So yeah, it's different. Like I feel like when I was playing there wasn't any of that and so people were just posting on Vine to be funny and to gain popularity, but now it's just completely morphed and evolved into something bigger and something that can be crippling if you aren't enjoying doing it. So I feel like social media isn't for everyone because some people would see the 2 hour edit for a 30-second video as too unbearable and too much of a grind. And when you're when you're having to outsource and pay other people for your editing, that probably means you don't enjoy it, and you're just gonna be constantly getting frustrated if your video doesn't perform well because your editor messed it up.
Mhm.
That just sounds to me like a big corporation who's hiring and firing people because they're trying to drive traffic somewhere. So at the collegiate level, I would say only do it if you love it and if you don't mind grinding out editing and having to learn what Adobe is, or if you're using CapCut or whatever apps you're using to edit. Like, you got to love doing that. There has to be like an artistic brain or a artistic tick in your brain that enjoys doing that stuff, and you have to let the creative juices flow, and that's like your outlet to allow your creative juices to perform well. But that's what I would say is, if you don't have experience in it and you don't enjoy learning new stuff like that, like, don't do it. It's not worth your time. It's going to make it more of a burden than a blessing. But for me, like personally, I was always into photography. I always enjoyed uh, creating videos even before Vine. Like, I was constantly doing that with my siblings. So this was just a way for me to kind of re-experience and reinvent my childhood, and take baseball and my creative childhood thinking and blend them together to go produce something unique and individually me. And so for me, like, I get caught up when like a brand will tell me that they need something performed a certain way. Like, I actually get burnt out, and I just say no, even if the money's good. If I don't have creative liberty, I don't get excited, and when I don't get excited, it shows on camera. So yeah, I'd
Yeah.
say the burden is if you overwhelm yourself with too much to do that you don't enjoy doing.
Yep. Makes sense. Makes sense. All right. This is going to be a complete 180, and we got a couple more things. This wasn't even on the list to talk about today, but I do want to pick your brain on it. I want to hear what you have to say. So, you've been giving lessons for quite some time now. You've taught at all ages from what it seemed, but I
Mhm.
want to go into youth baseball here for a second. So, last night, I'm not going to name any names out of respect, but I went and saw an old trainer of mine, really good friend to this day. He's got a beautiful family and two younger boys and a daughter, but the two younger boys were playing in their Little League games last night. And so, I drove an hour and a half out, went and watched them play, had dinner with them. Great night. But long story short, two Little League games. One's 10 years old, the other's 8. We're in a complex, so I'm bouncing back and forth, watching ABs, watching them pitch, do the deal, right? So much fun. Had an absolute blast watching those kids have as much fun as they are, just seeing the game without pressure. It gets to a point where I feel like I hadn't seen that in a while, honestly. So I just had a great time being there. But I'm gonna be very blunt and say I've seen this happening in travel ball, but to go to Little League fields and see what I was seeing last night out of those parents and coaches was unreal. It almost, I should say, unacceptable. Like, I look back at that and I remember when I was starting to feel pressure at 12 and 13 years old, and the travel ball team I was playing for was flying guys in from different countries to take my spot and stuff like that. And,
Mhm.
that's a different type of pressure. And obviously, you start to experience stuff like that as you get older. But to be 10 and 8 years old, to be playing Little League, and I'll start with the coaches, to hear a coach telling a kid what to do mid at bat every single pitch, scoot up in the box, scoot back, widen your stance, put your hands up, swing from your torso. Dude, he's 10 years old. Like, I'm gonna go coach this year at Driveline with some of the best hitters in the world. And like, I'm looking at these parents like, dude, stop. This kid's 10 years old. Get in the box, have fun, hit the ball. Like, it should just be athletic. It shouldn't be anything more than that. But to hear these dads yelling at their boys like I did last night, and just there was nothing crazy, but it was just the mechanical side of things at 10 years old is crazy for you to be doing that. Like, I know some of the best hitters to this day who say, yeah, I still get in there. I just try to be athletic and loose. That's my philosophy. That's how I get it done. But hearing these guys come at some of their kids last night was crazy. And that was on the coach's side. But then on the parent side, I'm hearing them chirp these 14, 15-year-old umps. I'm hearing them yell this and that. All I can think, being 24 years old, is I'm looking out there saying, man, it's just so fun watching these kids run around and have fun with their buddies and have a blast. Like, it made me genuinely so happy to watch. But then I'm watching these parents and how they're getting into it. And I'm like, you guys, it just seems like you're looking at it the wrong way. And
Hmm.
why do you care so much how your kid does right now? He's 10 years old. Let them have fun. It shouldn't be I'm watching these parents cuss at each other back and forth because their kid struck out and the dad wasn't happy. And it's just makes you cringe a little bit. That's not how it should be. And I just remember the burden it put on me at 12, 13, and how I had to deal with that. And I know I just went on a little rant there, but I want to hear from your side of things where you think youth baseball is at. Cause I mean, I don't know, man. It was scary, honestly. I was going home last night, like, dude, I'm kind of scared to have some boys if they want to play ball. Like, will never be able to act like that. But I don't know. What's your take on that?
Yeah, so I actually have a few buddies in the content creation world who have talked on that topic a number of times, and they actually have polar, or wouldn't say they have polar opposite opinions of it, but I'll kind of give you both perspectives for a second. So the first perspective is from a guy named Coach Ballgame. Coach Ballgame, he is associated with MLB on I think play ball youth sports or something, and he does a great job, and he does a lot of skits where it's like, hey parents, be the parent, hey athlete, be the athlete, don't yell at your son, he's playing a ball game, go sit in the stands and be the cheerleader, and then if you want to talk to him after the game, don't burn him out. Like he's all about fun and letting the kid have fun and play with joy and all of that. And I really love that about him. I've done a couple of his camps and they're a ton of fun. And he's actually done a couple camps with me with NYABC and the Savannah Bananas and all that. But
Nice.
yeah, he's actually perfect for youth baseball. But then you have the issue that little league athletes also play travel ball, and you are fully aware that travel ball and little league are different in the sense that it's more competitive and highly there's a lot of contention in travel ball, and so you get these athletes from travel ball who bring the travel ball culture to little league, and that's kind of the standard, and so they bring in the
Mm,
competitive
think
atmosphere
about
and
that.
infiltrate the youth level. And I think that's fine personally. My own personal opinion is I think when an athlete wants to chirp another athlete and they're doing it with good sportsmanship, but they're just getting after each other and they're rah rah in the dugout, I think that's perfectly fine. I think the issue is amplified when the parents are also cussing out the athletes and when the parents are trying to be the coach. And I also think it's an issue when the coach is coaching while the athlete's like actually trying to perform. I think there's a time and a place for all of that takes place, but it's just so people just do it at the wrong times. So I feel like athletes have the creative liberty to say what they need to say on the baseball field and do what they need to do as long as it's in good sportsmanship. I think parents need to stay quiet during the game in terms of mechanical stuff or anything that is the coach's responsibility. And then it's their responsibility after the game to come alongside their son and tell him what he did wrong or help coach him on what maybe his private instructor has been teaching him. And I think it's the coach's responsibility to pick the right times to actually make those critiques and criticisms and teaching moments to those athletes, and that should be done in the dugout, not on the field. So I think there's moments where parents and coaches just need to zip it and let the athlete play.
Absolutely. And like I said, the family I was with, they were great and they absolutely went about everything the right way. Their boys are great and they came off the field, made sure they had fun, they were involved, and they weren't like that at all. It was just being in that environment. I was like, what? It almost felt uncomfortable in a sense of knowing what I know, playing the game where I've played, and watching these guys. And I would just see these little kids run out there with the biggest smiles on their face. And I could tell how happy they were. And then when some of them would strike out, they'd come off the field bawling their eyes out because they cared so much. And
Hmm.
I was like, I get it. It's you care about it, you love it. That's awesome. And but yeah, just hearing some of those parents how they were kind of talking about it, I felt bad because I mean, honestly, if I'm being real, like I remember when my parents were kind of doing that when I was at an early age, but not to their fault. It was just that's how competitive it was, and that was
Hmm.
more so travel ball, as I said, as I got older. But it just I think it does more to the kids' psychology than the parents see or understand.
For sure. Like when you got that kid smiling coming up to bat and he's all amped to be there, and then the very next at bat after he just struck out, instead of smiling and being ready for that next at bat, he's looking into the stands at his parents to see if they hate him now because he struck out the last at bat. That's when you know it's an issue because now that athlete's identity is being wrapped up in his parents' opinion of him because that kid now thinks that his dad thinks he's a failure and he's a terrible human being because he didn't do his job. That's going to instill a sense of performance based love and conditional love instead of unconditional love, which is the way that we're called to live our lives, which is the way Christ loves us. So yeah, I think it's completely wrong when done incorrectly, and I do not think that parents are doing that intentionally. I think they are doing it out of love in their own, I guess, sadistic way, but it's coming off the wrong way to athletes. And as an athlete who also had a parent who was extremely vocal and would get kicked out of numerous little league games,
Mhm.
I he doesn't do that anymore. He's a lot better. But yeah, early on, he definitely had antics, and it's something that I've talked to him about, and we've worked through. And yeah, we have a good relationship now. But I think back then that was crippling for me, and my performance would get diminished because I was worried about my dad being embarrassing, and my dad saying something that was going to make me get punished by my own coaches. And so my dad was trying to defend me and trying to like root me on, and he would get mad at the umpire and freak out at the umpire. But
Mhm.
now the umpire's not giving me strikes because he's frustrated with my dad, and my coach is looking at me like, "Hey, can you shut your dad up?" And then my teammates were like, "Man, your dad's so annoying." So I'm getting all this negative feedback, and now I got to go compete. Like that sucks.
Which I'm sure more people deal with that than people realize, in the game. I mean, we see it. It happens on every team, you know. Luckily, I would say my experience, mine was always very closed off, very quiet, the guy that was just gonna sit there, but at the end of the day, I knew what he was thinking. And so
Mm.
it was a different type, but I trust me, I fully understand what you're saying there. But like you said, it just comes from a place of love. They all care, and that's what it is at the end of the day. Some just show it a little differently. And I'm gonna just try to do it better. I think that's how life is supposed to go. You're supposed to be better than your parents as you go on generation after generation. And so just learning from them. And like I said, just want to be a little bit better, make sure my kids have the most fun possible. But actually, to that, I've thought about it before. I want my kids, if they play sports, do whatever sports you want, but I want them to have as much fun as they possibly can with those sports until they get to high school, and I still want them to have fun, but that's when I want them to start taking it more serious. My opinion might change down the line. I mean, you have kids right now, so you could talk more on it, but I don't want them. I don't see the travel ball circuit getting better anytime soon. I don't like that I see 10-year-olds getting ranked across the country right now. I would want my kid, let's say we'll go baseball. I want my kid playing little league all the way up. I don't want him in travel ball. We can start to work on it. Like I know what I know, you know what you know. I'll teach you the right way to play the game, and I'll teach you how to play it good, but I don't want him getting caught up in that. I don't want him overthinking it. I just want him going out there and having fun. And also, you know that too. I mean, the rankings today are so absurd to me because so many guys don't get recruited until later in their high school career. I was a late bloomer along with probably 80% of the guys that are playing high level college baseball right now. We all saw those kids at 12, 13 years old that were hitting 25, 30 plus pumps and supposed to be the next coming of Jesus. But you know what I mean? And then we get to high school and it's like, well, you don't care anymore. You fizzle out or, you kind of give up on it or that everybody else grows and the work ethic, stayed with them. And that's the harsh reality. But when I'm seeing some of these younger guys get ranked today and seeing these crazy perfect game events, that's sweet. That's all good. Good for you. But in my opinion, I just think about it because I see where it's at. I really would just want my kids, I think, to play little league and be with their friends and just have fun with the game, man. I don't want to do all the extra stuff early on because I think that does more to the mentality, like I said, than most people see.
Yeah, I think the solution to that, because there's gonna always be peer pressure, and the athlete is gonna force you. Like I've just seen it happen so many times. Like
I probably did
parents,
it to parents. Yeah.
yeah, we all do because Timmy and Jimmy get all the cool gear with their travel ball organization. I'm over here rocking Sunset Little League or whatever, and I want the cool merch that the Marucci Elite team is giving out. Discounted gloves, which is like 10% off, and they're all getting these crazy getting to go on these crazy trips and go out to all these cities and states and everything. Like you're going to want to do that. So I think the best way to mitigate that is to have your athlete play multiple sports and treat baseball seasonal like it was designed to be. That's my opinion. Like you can play travel ball, but you're only playing it for a season. You can play little league if you want, but you're only playing it for a season, and then we're going to go and play golf or
Mm,
football or basketball, whatever it is, and then you just take them through the cycle in a calendar year and let them diversify their friend groups and meet new people, have different motor patterns be trained, and so they become a well-rounded athlete. And then, yeah, it just makes their baseball performance improve, and it doesn't diminish the love of the game.
Yeah, I love what you just said right there. Keep baseball seasonal like it's meant to be. I That actually I think holds a lot of weight because I mean I started playing full time at an early age. I was probably 12, 13, but I played every sport under the sun up until that point, and it went from seasonal to now it's going to be every day of the year. I mean, till about 2 weeks ago, you know? So yeah, I like that. Keep baseball seasonal. That's how it's supposed to be. I think that would definitely help a lot of people keep the love for the game and not experience as much burnout, but,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's
And
great.
just to clarify, this is in youth baseball. Like
Yes, yeah,
there is a time when you do have to turn it on and you have
mhm,
to go full tilt baseball and you have to commit, and it has to become specialized at some point. But youth specialization in baseball is one of the leading causes of injuries. There's a lot of research out there about that. When you specialize too early on, you're more likely to get hurt.
mm,
So yeah,
that makes
youth
sense.
youth baseball. Keep it fun, keep it athletic, go play other sports when you can.
I have my final question here for you in a second about, what's one piece of advice you're gonna give yourself, when you were younger? What would you have done differently? But I wanna touch on that one more time. I know that we're going a little long, but I'm just having so much fun with this conversation. What does it take? Because I don't think and this isn't pro ball anymore, I'm talking college, and I go into my experience a little bit, and I've talked about this on previous pods, but tell tell the people a little bit what it takes to actually play at the college level because I don't think some of these high schoolers honestly realize I didn't realize, so I can say this, I don't think a lot of us did coming into college ball, what it takes to succeed at that level. It turned into me having to understand when I really wanted to get good. It was my sophomore year in college. Yeah, I was playing JUCO. It was my first year of athletic eligibility. And I found myself in the cages at 1 a.m., multiple times a week. And it was an everyday thing. And there was no questions, like, I was making sacrifices. I knew what I had to do to be where I wanted to be, and so I decided to do it. But when I see some of these kids, sometimes in high school, I'm like, "Alright, like, this is what it takes. You wanna be at the highest level, you gotta hit every day, you gotta train every day, you have to train your mental." There's so much that goes into it. So what's some advice there? What does it take?
Yeah, so every organization, every college is different. So that's you have to go in full tilt knowing that there's not one size fits all models out there that are going to be your roadmap to success. But by the time you get to college, you have to have a very clear and defined process in your daily routine that you need to do in order to be successful. If you don't have an idea of what it takes for your body to stay healthy, and what it takes for your body to perform well, you're going to get essentially run over by the rest of your competition, and you're going to get pushed to the sidelines. That's the bottom line. You're either going to get hurt because you're not going to be able to sustain the rigorous schedule of a college athlete, or you're just not going to know what it takes to level up, and you're just going to stay that senior in high school that never got any better. So it at our field at APU, standards are pretty high in terms of conditioning, lifting, performance, execution, all of that stuff. They were pretty high. I would say they were like middle of the pack in terms of what else is out there, especially at the junior college level. But what a lot of people didn't understand, at least these past 2 years, is what was expected of you was not the summation of what you needed to do to be successful. Like there were a lot of things that various athletes needed to do off the field to prepare their bodies to be able to do what your coach is asking of you. And honestly, to be quite frank, the guys that got hurt, like non-contact hurt, were the guys who weren't putting in that work and who weren't prioritizing getting their body equipped and prepared to perform at the capacity that they were being expected to perform. So yeah, I would say having a clear idea of what your body needs gives you a foundation and a lens of being able to view your coach's expectations of you. And if you look at a coach's practice plan and you see all the different things that you're expected to do, if there's anything that's not being done at practice that's on your plan to stay healthy, you need to finish up at the end of every day what was missed and what was left out on your own personal plan. So whether that's mobility, flexibility, extra working out, extra hitting on the tee, maybe some plyo balls or some core velocity belt, whatever those steps that weren't completed that day, you have to make time to do those because if you don't, tomorrow's going to suffer and your body's going to suffer and everything is going to start breaking down or you're not going to get your hacks in enough and it's going to show up in the game. You're going to be flat. So yeah, I think that comes down to just what you learn at the youth level is developing that process, and you have to learn from the experience of other people when you're younger. But at some point, you have to stop learning from other people and start trusting all the groundwork that you've put in.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
absolutely. I think that's great advice. Okay, so we will finish it up. I can't thank you enough for coming on too. I feel like I've taken up a lot of your time here, but man, I'm just so grateful for it.
I'm
But
having a blast, man. I could
thank
talk
you.
to you all day.
Yeah, same here, my man. But so let's finish it up with one piece of advice you could go back and give yourself if you had some.
Yeah, I've always tried to live my baseball journey with no regrets, and same thing with life, but we all make mistakes. But with baseball, the one thing that I regretted in pro ball was not appreciating the moment until it was already past. And like there was a time in pro ball when I was so stressed out about getting released or getting sent down or not performing well and just getting blacklisted that I didn't appreciate like the 4,000 fans that I was signing autographs for. I didn't love that moment until it was already gone. And fortunately, God's given me plenty of opportunities to experience like signing autographs and enjoying being around baseball again since then. But that's not the case for everyone. Some people go through life and just wish they had enjoyed the moment more. And that's honestly something as a college coach we look at. We try to project how an athlete's makeup is going to improve over time, and their makeup being like their ability to stay in the moment and not focus on the past or the future too much. That was me. I feel like I had very poor off-field makeup when it came to not appreciating the little things until they were already gone.
Yep. I think that's great advice, man. And I wish I could have done that a little bit more myself at times. Even though I felt like I was always trying to, I think looking back, yeah, there was a few more times I could have, but it flies by and I had a great time. Like you said, wouldn't take anything back.
Yeah, man. Well, I appreciate everything you've done for us this year, dude. Like being one of the captains on the team and not even the proclaimed captain. You kind of just earned your way into that role through your performance and everyone on the team knew that you cared more than anyone and that you just kind of took over that voice of being the guy that everyone wanted to rally behind, man. And your actions and your words aligned. Like you weren't just walking the or talking the talk, you were walking the walk too. And that was so encouraging, man. I've said to this to you before, but yeah, you were kind of the heart and soul of the team, bud. And that is attributed to your love of the game and your passion and your desire to win, but also just you as a person. People just love being around you. And
Hey,
yeah, that's why I would stay on this call for another 2 hours if you asked me to. But yeah, I just I wish you nothing but the best in this journey, man, because I know it's going to be impacting a lot of lives if you take the same character that you brought onto the field each and every day this past year, like people are going to rally behind what you're doing here, and it's great stuff what you're doing, man. A lot of people
thank you.
need this.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And like I said, I can't thank you enough for coming on, but for saying that too, like that truly does mean a lot. And I think it was something I've told you before, but that was told to me not too long ago by an older teammate of mine. And I took it into this year and I wish more players played with it, but that was 5 years down the line. You know, I had a great season this year on the field, but 5, 10 years down the line when I'm texting my boys or somebody calls me up, am I going to be the guy that they look back and say, oh, you know, that guy was not the best, tough to root for, I didn't like talking to him that much? Or is it going to be like, no, you know, I remember Tyler Priest for being a good teammate and a good friend. That's
Mm,
what at that point, when I came into this season at APU, I realized I wanted to be the best teammate and friend I could be. Cause that's what I want to be remembered by, you know, like it's such a fun game with so many ups and downs, but I think that freed me up on another level this year. And so hearing you say that, I really appreciate it because that was definitely the goal going into the year and it definitely seemed to work. So yeah, man, I'm grateful for you and that entire staff over there. That was one of the most fun years of baseball I've ever had. So like I said, just grateful.
likewise, dude. Yeah, I'm grateful for you too, buddy.
Thank you, Bobby. I appreciate this again, my man. We'll wrap it up here, but thank you, dude. And good luck to you in your career. We'll stay in touch, of course, obviously. Can't wait. I'm gonna be honestly calling you about so many questions about social media. So